If you're only using AI to do things like create me a blog post, write an email, or translate this document, then you're really missing out. Because yesterday, when I was working on the Collab365 Toolbelt, I suddenly had an idea that AI could help me with something that's really off-piste. And so let me just give you a little bit of background and I'll show you what I've built because I think it's really incredible and it just really stretches your imagination of how AI can help you in day-to-day tasks. So if you watched yesterday's video, you'll have seen the announcement I made. This is Collab365 Toolbelt. It's an internal tool that we're using to basically automate our business. We're trying to consolidate all of our tools under one umbrella so that all of our team can go in here and find out what they want to do and just get the job done. We don't have to go off to different systems unless we really have to. We need it to be all centralized in one place where it's easy to use. So to do that, what I did yesterday is I announced that this control here is a JSON form control that I built, and it's a PCF control. So it's all code, but what it allows you to do is effectively create a form dynamically. And so by that, I mean, if we go back to here, you see all of these tools here. These all come from a SharePoint list, which happens to be this SharePoint list. So you can see summarize a workshop from a transcript is going to be on here somewhere. It's going to be on somewhere. Yeah. Summarize a workshop from transcript. There you go. So these are SharePoint list items. And then another interesting column, if you go to it and look at, for example, let's have a look at, let's find out one that's actually got something in. This one has. Let's pick this one. If we scroll down here, look here, you'll find that we've got some JSON. Now, JSON might be really scary for you, you might be really familiar with it, but JSON's just a shorter notation that uses less characters to define a schema. And so it means you can pass data. It stands for JavaScript object notation. It came from the JavaScript world, but it means a load of coding tools can understand JSON and help you parse and support it. And so what I've done is I've created a JSON schema that allows us to describe a form in JSON. So you can see from here, even if you don't understand JSON, you probably get the idea. I've got an element on here, which is ID of sales page text. It has a label. It's got a type of a text box. We've also got support for select and check boxes and dates. Then whether it's mandatory, whether it's single line or multi-line, and then also default value. So when the thing loads, you're going to get that in there. That's all hunky-dory. It's quite easy to do if you've just got one control, but if you've got a tool on here that's got lots of controls, for example, a quiz, this one's 4, it gets quite messy. So let me just show you the create quiz one. I think it's down, let's close that. Down the bottom here, is it? There we go, let's edit that one. Let's go and have a look at the JSON for the quizzy one. Right, so you can see that's getting quite messy. So we've got quiz name, we've got quiz topic, we've also got a select list for difficulty. We've got quiz questions. So it gets quite messy. It's really, really easy to screw up that. But as one tip, if you do play around with JSON quite a lot and you get JSON for parse errors, one of the best things you can do is copy your JSON, go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT what's wrong with it. Because more often than not, it's going to tell you exactly what's wrong. And it will also kindly give you the repaired version. So it's really useful and I use it quite a bit. It's amazing how much we can use ChatGPT for that we're not actually using it in everyday world. So it get messy. So I was thinking, because we're going to use this quite heavily, I'm probably going to have to code a form builder that creates this JSON for me so that the team never ever have to see it. So effectively, they'll go into probably another tool, to be honest, and they'll say, I want to create a new form, and they'll be able to pick a control, drag it over, set the type, set all of these fields you can see where it's mandatory, etc. And it'll just create it for you. Because code's doing it, it's always going to create it in the desired format and it's going to compile. But I wanted a quick way of doing it, and I suddenly started thinking yesterday, is there a quick way I can get this JSON form created without me having to code it all? Eventually I will code it, but is there a quick way of me doing it? Because I'm off on holiday and I know the team want to create some tools. And do you know what? I found a way, and it's so good that I might not even have to create that tool anyway, which is another, AI is massive now, isn't it? Because you can do so much with it. And just imagine, right, one of the team wants to create a new tool. What they'd have to do is they have to come into SharePoint, they'd have to give it a title, give it a description, pick an icon for it, put it in a category. They'd give it a sort order, so it shows where it's displayed on the gallery. Then they'd have to put the dreaded JSON form in. Then they'd have to pick a flow ID, don't worry about that for now. And then they'd also have to give it a prompt. And the prompt is, if it's an AI tool, that's the prompt that's going to be resolved that gets sent into OpenAI in order to get a response from the chatbot. And that part's easy. That's really easy to create the prompt, and that is something you probably want to type. JSON format isn't. So I was thinking, how do we do this? Is there a way we can use AI? And there is. I think I've solved it. So if I show you a bit of code, promise you won't get scared about this. If you're not a coder, then this might look really scary. I'm by no means going to talk you line by line through this at all. In fact, I'm probably just going to say, here's some code. You're probably going to realize that this code here is the PCF component that draws the form. So this takes the JSON form that we passed in from SharePoint, and it effectively creates a set of fields. And then down here, you'll probably see some code that goes, right, if it's of type date, go create me a date picker. So that's all you really need to know. Interestingly, tools like ChatGPT can understand this code. And if they can understand this code, they can probably understand all of the parameters that get passed in. So one of the parameters that gets passed in here is JSON form input. And then that gets bound all the way down into some code that gets passed into a parameter. And so if I tell ChatGPT about my code, then theoretically it could create the JSON for me, and that's exactly what it's done. So what I've done is, you can see this screen here. This is called the Create JSON Form and Prompt. So this is actually allowing us to create the tools, to create more tools. So at the end of this, when this thing runs, you should be able to create another one of these tools by passing in the information in SharePoint, if that makes sense. I hope it does. It's quite complicated because it's quite meta. Right, so the only thing this takes is what tool do you want to create. So you might want to create a tool that actually helps me create a blog post with AI. You might want to create a tool that actually helps me create a quiz, which I'm going to do as an example. So how do we do it? So what we need to do is we need to go and look at the SharePoint list item behind that tool. So it's called Create JSON Form and Prompt. And if we expand that, this is the Create JSON Form and Prompt. So if we go and look at the properties on here, the interesting bit here is that we've got this prompt here, and I'm going to post this into WordPad for you. Get that? Now I'm going to just make that a little bigger so you can see what the hell's going on. So what I've said, generate a JSON schema and prompt input string for a form in a JSON form to gather information about subjects. So that's the placeholder that we're going to pass in to the tool. So that gets resolved from the tool. It gets passed in when it gets run. If you don't understand what I mean, there's a video yesterday tells you about that. So React code is this, so it must match the inputs expected. Also use the field types that best suit the question in the form and add default values plus placeholders. The prompt input with substitute user values should be something I can copy and paste, prompt an AI like you, and get a response, so you should be able to question it. Only return the JSON form input and prompt input. Wrap the response as HTML, so that's just so it's nice. And then I give it a bit of a prompt, e.g. H2 JSON form, JSON here, put it in a pre because it's going to be code, H2 prompt input, prompt here. With no characters added that will cause it not to compile. Here's the code. So I've effectively taken the code that I just showed you, and I've taught the AI about the code that takes the JSON form. Again, it is very meta, and I hope you're following me because it is really powerful. You actually do pick this up. So I've told it to learn all about our code because I want it to help me pass a parameter in, which is the JSON form and the prompt input. So to see how all that works, let me just show you an example. So first off, ignore here. This is just debug, so I'm making sure that I've got the right prompt. Right, so let's assume we want to create a quiz that allows multi-choice, different levels of difficulty, and is suitable for older people or children, and has a number of questions that are equal to 5, 10, 15 or 20. So I'm asking it to create me a new tool, supposedly that's going to have a form that's got probably things like number of questions, difficulty level, who's the target audience, what's the topic. I am not sure what the topic is, so please ask that in the prompt. Let's just go run that. And I'm going to run that because that's quite a complex query, so it's probably going to take a bit of time to come back. And so while that's running, what I'm going to expect now is some JSON form coming back and also a prompt. And just to tell you a little bit more about the prompt, leave that running in the background. The prompt for a tool on this tool belt is a prompt that you'd pretty much type into something like ChatGPT. So for example, if this one was going to create a summary post from a transcript, answer should be embedded in HTML text. Here's a transcript from the video. There's a substitute placeholder that I pass in from my form. I want you to read the transcript to summarize it so that the reader gets as much from the summary as they do from the video. If possible, use the past framework so that you can start with the problem solved in the video. So that's the kind of thing I want it to create. So we want it to create one of these tools. So hopefully it's come back, and there you go, it's come back. And look at that. That looks very much our JSON form. And funnily enough, it's because it knows all about my code, it's been able to do that. And let's have a look at the prompt. So please create a quiz name, and topic of quiz topic. The quiz should be quiz difficulty. Perfect. So let's go create a tool. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create, I've already got one. I'm going to call it create quiz for demo. And yeah, create quiz. It's experimental. Let's put it experimental. I won't bother adding an image. I don't think I need one. So the prompt is, let's go to here. Let's go get its prompt. Control C that. Bang that in there. And then the form is this. So Control C. Come on. Let's capture that. Control C. I need to put a copy on there. That'd be really nice, wouldn't it? It's an AI tool. And somewhere down here, we're going to have the JSON form. Here we go. Cool. I'm going to give it a slug, because I do need that. Create quiz 2. Save. So theoretically, we should now have a new tool on here. And now the reason I need to put refreshing, because I keep doing these demos and I keep forgetting to refresh. So I'm just going to refresh that so we get all the data back from SharePoint. Refreshing, and then we go into here, and hopefully in experimental, we've got create quiz demo. Now, voila. Now, ignore that because I need to change my code to actually refresh this screen and blank that out. So that's just from the old one, so ignore it. But what it's done here, it's now built this thing, quiz name. Let's do, I'm going to the Rugby World Cup, so let's do it on rugby. Rugby, trivia, enter the quiz topic, rugby World Cup trivia. Difficulty, let's make it easy. The audience is going to be older people, and then remember I asked it to do that, 15 questions, so he's already done it for me. So I'm expecting this thing, I'm going to click run. I'm expecting this thing now to go create me a quiz that's formatted in HTML. It might not be formatted in HTML actually because I didn't actually put the bit of HTML, so it might look a bit rubbishy formatting. So please create a quiz name, rugby trivia, on the topic of the World Cup. The quiz should be of easy difficulty and suitable for older people. It should have 15 questions. So we're probably going to get a quiz response here, and it might not be formatted very well. I can't remember, but I can show you how to fix that. Because AI, unless you tell it how to do the formatting, it's just, it can go off piece and do whatever you want. So come on, AI, do your stuff. And there you go, that's come back now. So as I thought, that's not the best formatting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the tool and I'm going to just borrow something from one I created last night. So what I could do in that other prompt is say, and wrap the answers in HTML. So I'm going to say answer should be in HTML tags. So I copy and paste it to Microsoft Word, and that is enough to actually make it a bit more human readable. So I'm going to go back into our quiz for demo, and I'm going to do edit, grid, and I'm going to paste that in there. Hunky dory. I'm going to save that here, run this, create quiz for demo. Let's blank that out now. I want this one to be create capitals of the world quiz. And I want the topic to be world cities. And I want these to be easy. Yeah, let's go make it easy because my geography is not very good. And let's also target children this time. I want 5 questions. Right, let's go run that. That's now back. And because we added that extra prompt at the top to say format this thing as HTML so it could be pasted into Word, that looks pretty tasty. So we've got 5 questions. This is an easy level quiz suitable for children. Test your knowledge about the capitals of different countries. Good luck. What is the capital of the United States? Oh, I should have told you to give the answers because I don't know the answers here. I've got one where it grades the answers. But it's just as creative you could get, and it's as good as the prompt you get with everything. So if I was a bit more prescriptive in that prompt that created the initial JSON form, this prompt here would have said, make sure you show the answers as well. I could have even said, make it optional whether you want to show answers, and then it probably would have given me a pull down list, show answers, hide answers. So I think that's really cool. I don't know about you, because it's mind-blowing. I think we could probably take this a whole step further, and maybe we are getting to the stage where I wouldn't have to even code that form builder because this thing's as good. You can get prescriptive about the response you want and get it really tight so that you could guarantee the response coming back from AI, something you could use in Power Apps to go save into SharePoint. You're off to the races, really, aren't you? So hopefully that's got some brain cells going. I absolutely loved it, and I thought I just wanted to share it. But that's over and out from me, and I'll see you in the Collab365 Academy. Ta-ra!